and welcome to day 2 of the Tooheys International Cup 18-foot Summer Series. I'm Karen Tighe. The points table sees Xerox, skippered by Phil Barnett, leading on 20, with world champion Prudential currently in 3rd spot. After yesterday's blowout, which caused one race to be abandoned, 3 heats will be held today. The starting point for this specially designed slalom course is Bradley's Head, and each skiff will need to complete 2 full laps to finish each heat. So let's now join race commentators Bill McCartney and Rob Brown.
Day 2, 3 races today, and the crews spent a busy night repairing their craft, and we've got a few injuries. Michael Bochner suffering from glandular fever.
We've just found out, Rob, he's had it for weeks, and well, not weeks, but for some days. There he is, just starting in the first race, the handicap race. He's first away in the handicap start, and he's sailing with glandular fever, which is a tough assignment.
You'll find it pretty tough, you know, like any sickness when you're sailing at this level. You know, your concentration's not there, Bill, so it'll be a big performance if you can do well.
Second away, off 3 minutes, are Elabashe and Ericsson. Handicap start gives the boats considered to be not as quick as the scratch markers a bit of a chance. Thus, Ericsson and Elabashe have a 3-minute start on the back markers, the Gestetners of this world, and I would say out of the blocks, Ericsson looking pretty sharp.
Does look smooth through the water, and in the top of your screen you can see in fact Tooheys Ross around the weather mark under Spinnaker, and Ericsson and Elabashe laying through to the top mark.
Tooheys Ross going just fine. Off scratch, Xerox, Prudential, Xerox on your left, Prudential on the right, and then further out to the right and down the course is the Gestetner. Gestetner sitting pretty of the scratch markers.
The leader, Tooheys Ross under Spinnaker, 3 crew members out on the wire. Michael Bochner enjoying the lead at this stage, heading down towards the mid-mark in the course, and quite a considerable lead, Bill. I think he could have even opened up his lead at this stage of the race.
Looked that way to me as well. Now at the top mark of the scratch markers, trying to catch up to those boys out front, the Xerox. Phil Barnett managed to stick his nose in front, and he gets to the top mark first, on the first, and then in fact it's the quarter-way mark. We're 1/4 of the way through the course. As we summarise this first handicap race, Prudential is around in 5th position, and 6th at this stage is the Gestetner. Gestetner, for Dave Cummins at the helm, I think his start was a bit rusty, Rob.
Yeah, he didn't do a real good job at up that first beat, but here you see the crew feverishly trying to get those spinnakers up. He tried to duck his nose underneath Prudential's stern, but to no avail.
Meanwhile, this is the problem area for the Tooheys. They're running between marks 2 and 1 on the slalom course. Tooheys got hit by a big slant from the east, Rob. A big slant from the east drove them down off the course. They've had to drop their spinnaker. And there you see what it's done to them. Heavens above, it's like having an axle missing from your back wheel. Without that spinnaker, he had to drop it to get up high enough to get around the mark. You can see what's happened to him. He's trying to reset it now. He's high enough now. In the meantime, Gestetner's, I should say, the Ericssons picked up something like 1.5 minutes.
Yeah, well, he had a tremendous lead on Ericsson, and just shows you one little problem and that lead can be absorbed immediately.
The Xerox gradually eating away at the lead of those up ahead of her, going very, very nicely indeed. Phil Barnett sailing the boat smoothly. The wings don't dip there. You see that? There's a significant difference. No dipping of the wings, and he's still maintaining a 10-second lead over Prudential.
The thing about in these conditions, oh, have a go at this. Michael Walsh on Prudential has jibed in the wash of spectators, and he's dug his nose in and looks like he's in a lot of strife there.
Major, major, major problems on board the Prudential. I mean, this could be a series effective incident here, no question. Look at that, where's the nose gone?
Their pole has broken, their spinnaker pole dug in the water, the spinnaker went underneath the pole, and there you go. That is disaster for the Prudential crew. I feel for them at this stage.
We'll come back to that in a moment, because Elabashe has rounded the bottom mark at the halfway mark. We are now at the halfway mark. The leader in the race is the Ericsson ship, going like a rocket. Elabashe 2nd, Tooheys Ross 3rd, and look at this, no nose. And with no nose, Rob, you can't smell victory.
That's right. This is that's the day for Prudential. They might continue in the race, but no way in the wide world they can compete and win this race.
That's bad luck. I thought they'd kick on, but anyway, the Gestetner. I noticed incidentally that the Tooheys Ross has passed Elabashe again, so Michael Bochner back in there again, keeps fighting back. Good to see. Gestetner now, still trailing the Xerox, I believe, although hopefully we'll get a crossing of these two as they make their way back up the course, tacking up into the breeze. for the second time, around about 2/3 of the way through the race. Oh, out the back door goes Gestetner. Xerox murdering him.
The thing about, in comparison to yesterday's race, Bill, is the breeze is lighter, they've got larger sails on, and there's more finesse required. The crews have got to be a little bit more cohesive, they've got to sniff where the wind shifts are, and everything is a little bit more sensitive. So the brute strength and the grunt that's involved in some of these boats, not so important today as far as finesse is concerned.
And absolutely full of finesse and sensitivity today in the first race, Ericsson, a minute ahead, headed for the finish line, about 100 metres to go. Take a look at a winning 18-foot skiff.
Tooheys Ross on her way to the finish, rounding Mark 2. And here we have Xerox coming in on starboard. Adrian Cahalan wants to jibe but can't. Xerox jibes cleanly into third position and has forced Ella Bechet. Oh, dearie me, that's unfortunate.
That's bullying. He bullied her.
Well, that happens in 18-foot racing, and we have Tooheys Ross, Michael Bochner. He's done a good job today under the circumstances. He's not feeling too well, I suppose, with glandular fever, but good luck to you, boys. You've done a good race.
Through in third position, having given Adrian Cahalan a nasty nudge off the course, exercised his right of way in very vigorous fashion, and that's Phil Barnett in Xerox. Ella Bechet recovered and has finished in fourth position.
That was a good result for Phil Barnett. He's done very well to finish second, so he's got a 1 and a 2. He's looking good in the series.
And as we get into the second race today, another handicap start, we see that Xerox has a 3-point lead over Ericsson in the series. At the top mark, the Tooheys Ross has maintained her lead without too much problem, had a very good first work up the windward beat, and at the quarterway mark, as they set the spinnaker, Alastair Saunders in the middle, the Tooheys Ross looks in good shape for this race.
Yeah, that was a pretty good set. The spinnaker had a slight twist in it, but it's fine now, and they want to clear up the boat and get the crew out in the wings and skirt down that downwind leg.
As they get away, they fire a gun for the scratch markers. We've got no Prudential for this second race because the nose broke on Prudential and Michael Walsh went home nursing some wounds. As they come out of the blocks, the two scratch markers, Xerox and Gestetner, and it looks to me like there's a great battle developing between Phil Barnett and Dave Cummins in this series, Rob.
Well, you can see how even it is. Look at that, there's not much difference in boat speed at all. Phil Barnett won the start. He's got the weather position, he's got the breeze on his right-hand side, and so there's going to be an interesting contest between those two boats.
Ella Bechet around the top mark in second position. Coming up to the top mark in the background in third position at the quarterway mark is the Ericsson, but as you can see, when they reached the top mark for the first time in this second race, the Tooheys Ross was still well in front, but the Xerox has managed to take some time, I believe, out of the Gestetner, heading up for the top mark for the first time in that great battle between those two. Phil Barnett had stuck his nose in front.
Rounding the top mark, Xerox, you can see the crew moved in off the wings. The forward hand funneling that spinnaker out, hauling the spinnaker up the mast. And there it goes. You can see one guy still in the boat. He tidies up all the ropes, passes the spinnaker sheet out to the forward hand, and away they go.
And Adam South still in the cockpit, tidying up. If they don't tidy up, they get all tangled. When they go to drop the spinnaker, there's an awful mess, and they finish up swimming and swearing and carrying on like nobody's business.
What we see here is they don't need full power, so the crew doesn't have to be fully extended. And now we are back down at the bottom mark. Ella Bechet forcing her way around that mark inside Tooheys Ross, so we have a lead change.
At the halfway mark of the race, the first lead change, the Ella Bechet carried a beautiful big seam of breeze right down the course between marks 2 and 1 and has been able to force her way through, and we have a new leader in this race as the Ericsson passes by in the foreground, now in third position.
The amazing thing about it is Adrian Cahalan, weighing in at 47.5 kilos, is mixing it with 14-stone muscle men, which is great to see her doing well.
And she doesn't hold back either, Rob, doesn't hold back 1 inch. She gives them heaps. I've had a few chats to Adrian and she doesn't hold back one little iota. Neither does Dave Cummins. He's managed to sneak through and pick up fourth position, I beg your pardon, fifth position. He's now in, no, I was right the first time. Fourth position now for the Gestetner. Xerox in fifth position. The battle continues between Phil Barnett and Dave Cummins. Nothing in it.
They're trying to pack those spinnakers away. You can see the spinnaker slowly coming down, probably a knot and a halyard because they haven't tidied the boat up properly. The crew have put the forward hand under a lot of pressure by a late spinnaker drop, and they're the consequences of that pressure.
Tooheys Ross battling to hang on to second position in very close quarters with Andrew de Vola on board the Ericsson, still just holding second.
Well, this is going to be very interesting, this battle between Xerox and Gestetner. You can see Gestetner passing behind Xerox. Xerox on their way, very well organised, settled and tuned into the upwind leg.
Rob, currently travelling between marks 1 and 2 on the slalom course. The Xerox went first and hooked into some nice breeze. So nice, in fact, as you can see in this picture, you've got the Ericsson around the mark. You can't quite see the Elabashe. Now you can, the Elabashe out front. Tooheys Ross around third, but sitting right on her bumper is the Xerox with Gestetner not far behind, closing up to a very close race. The vital spinnaker sets. Let's watch them.
This is where the crew work really pays. You see the situation here where Tooheys Ross is round at probably 10-15 seconds. Spinnaker coming out now. We have a weather set. It means the spinnaker's on the left-hand side of the boat, a very difficult set. The crew in the middle of the boat's slow, it's getting hit by the wind, it's heeling, the wind's digging in. Pop, there goes the spinnaker. Very difficult set, well executed.
So that wasn't too bad from the Gestetner. The Tooheys Ross came out of that best, did a great set and zipped off through past the Xerox. But look at Ericsson now. At the top of the picture, she was the first of those boats around that mark, and out the back door they go with a bad set.
Yeah, spinnaker had a wine glass in it, just popped then, but you see the distance she's lost. Xerox sliding through, Tooheys Ross holding her position, but the big late charge is from Gestetner, who in actual fact is closest to the next mark, and with this extra pressure on the course, this could be very interesting, and we could see a positional change.
Yes, definitely looking like Gestetner up into third. Second, beg your pardon.
Here we go. Elabashe with that extra pressure on the course is having a lot of trouble to lay through that mark. He has to flap her spinnaker so she can pass on the left-hand side of the mark in your foreground. And this is a very vulnerable point of sailing for these boats. The best part about sailing 18-footers is that they go fast and they're easy to sail. When they're slow like this, they're very vulnerable, and you can see the difficulties they're having trying to get round this mark.
Cameron McDonald, the middle hand, Charlie Diekman, the forward hand, working like crazy. A very, very reliable and professional crew, but a real struggle for them to get up around that Mark 1 to head off down to the finish line, and I know that Adrian Cahalan will have her heart in her mouth right now.
Well, the lips on the spinnaker are smiling, and hopefully this race will come good for them. But they've got a nice handy lead, Bill. They're just going to take it nice and easy here, and they'll have a win under their belts.
Lovely to see them sneak around that mark free of any trouble, and believe me, that's a very difficult point of sailing. So often you see these skiffs fall flat in their faces when they get into those sorts of difficulties where they have to ease spinnakers and flog up around marks. Gestetner has continued to sail well, snuck through. Oh, look at this in the background, the Ericsson absolutely in the newer, to say the least.
Yes, they've had to drop their spinnaker. I don't know whether they've got a problem on board, but the other two skiffs are battling with their spinnakers. Xerox has gone ahead of Tooheys Ross. Now, what's the Xerox boys going to do? They're going to have to drop their spinnaker too, I'd say.
No, they got up around the mark there, Rob, but I can tell you what happened on the Ericsson. Their spinnaker pole broke. I just got a little flick of a picture there, and the spinnaker pole was snapped clean in two as the Elabashe charges down towards the finish line, in charge of race 4 in the Tooheys International Cup.
Well, that's a great result. They sailed the boat well. I spoke about finesse, and, well, the females have certainly done that today.
7 stone and about 7 ounces of her, and I tell you what, I think it causes the boys plenty of heartburn as she crosses the line just at this very minute. Adrian Cahalan first. Xerox under extreme pressure from Tooheys Ross. Phil Barnett driving the Xerox through and picking up several minutes in this handicap race to pick up second position and really put a stranglehold on this series. They're really going to have to push to catch him up. Oh, look, I got it quite wrong. The Gestetner's ahead of him. The Gestetner got ahead. We forgot about Dave Cummins.
Well, the battle royal continued there, Bill, and we got some grace with Xerox and Tooheys Ross. Davey Cummings did do well in that spinnaker run to the line, and will take out second position. Xerox third, Tooheys Ross fourth, and as we know, Prudential, the pre-race favourite, out with a broken spinnaker pole, did not start.
Okay, race 3 today and race 4 in the series. The gun goes. There she goes. Tooheys Ross at the bottom end of the line. A great start. Elabashe caught with her pants down. Nothing going on at all. Sails not pulled on. She's had a very bad start. Xerox leads the series. Gestetner is second, right behind her in this race as well. And as we head off in race 4 of the series, we have got a wide open competition. That's an excellent start from the Tooheys Ross in the scratch start. All of them away well except for the Ericsson, which of course with a broken nose must be feeling pretty unhappy.
They've got a pretty hard race ahead of them. Without a spinnaker pole means they won't be able to set a spinnaker, so it's going to be a long day, and all they can hope to do is finish the race. But Tooheys Ross down at the top of your screen, best away, but the wind has come in from the bottom of the screen and is favouring Gestetner and also Ericsson, who was late away, and Michael Bochner would be thinking about tacking and getting across to that new line of breeze.
Yes, that last aerial, here we go. Over on the far left of the screen, in fact, very soon after the start, the Ericsson was last to start. Now she leads the race. She hooked into that new seam of breeze first. She's first to mark 1. She tacks on mark 1. There's the mark in the foreground. Ericsson suddenly last to first.
It's amazing. This breeze has become very shifty. You're probably looking about 10 to 12 knots, and just goes to show you how fluky the breeze is when a boat can start behind the rest of the fleet and they're leading round the first mark.
Also changing directions now, Xerox in second position. Gestetner in the foreground of this picture is in third position. Elabashe is fourth. Ericsson is fifth. Tooheys Ross is currently in sixth position. Nothing between Tooheys Ross and Ericsson. Rob, the breeze switching around. It's direction and strength, is it not?
Yes, it is. You can see here Ericsson out in front and Gestetner having a lot of trouble going through a lighter patch of breeze. And if he goes further to the right of the screen and falls into the bad air of Xerox, he's going to have a lot of trouble. But he's pulling away now to go behind that mark. Ooh, very close. If that one crew member happened to touch that mark, they'd have to go and re-round it. So good work by the crew to avoid that mark.
I actually thought that his spinnaker pole came very, very close to the Xerox skiffs just then, Rob. Very close indeed, which also would have been a penalty, wouldn't it?
That's correct.
OK, Ericsson, charging away. Can't set a spinnaker. It'll be tragedy for him to get to the top mark for the first time in first position, because then they're just going to have to watch the rest of the fleet sail past them without that spinnaker, and that'll be a very unhappy moment for them. Xerox, second, going out to the right-hand side of the course. And we saw Gestetner going out to the left. As we come up to the top end of the course, we see that Ericsson still leads. Tacking now, changing directions. Obviously, Andrew Devola believes he can now lay the mark and get around that top mark, and that's an achievement in itself for a man with a broken heart.
You know, it's amazing. You know, they suffered that bad consequence of a breakage in the pole, but they've really bit the bullet here and decided, well, we're going to give it our best shot. Xerox following them now. Ericsson pulling away to go around the top mark. Digging the wings in. I don't know what they're going to do now, Bill. They've got nothing to set.
I suppose they'll be wishing they had a billy of tea with them, Rob, because it's going to be a slow old trek, or a comparatively slow. They'd probably beat most other sail racing machines in the world down to the bottom end of the course anyway, but the rest of the 18s will set their big chutes, as we see now the Xerox around in second position. Now watch for the little grey ghost emerge from underneath the jib. There it is, just starting to come out. Behind them, Gestetner in third position in this race. Up she comes, the spinnaker, a beautiful set.
You can see how light it is now, the breeze just underneath Shark Island there. They'll want to get out either side to get into the true wind. Elabashe following Tooheys Ross just round the mark. When these boats slow down, they're very vulnerable, and you can see Elabashe digging the wing in, as too is Tooheys Ross, but a nice set on Tooheys Ross. Elabashe not as... haven't got a grip on this one today.
No, not looking as composed, that's for sure. But in the background already, there's the Ericsson. Now, this is just a couple of minutes later. The Ericsson is 300 metres behind Gestetner, and Gestetner's 50 metres behind Xerox. So the spinnakers in this breeze of, 10 knots, they're generating a 14 knots of boat speed. Without a spinnaker, good night, good night.
That's right, it certainly makes a big difference. And you have the Gestetner duelling against Xerox. These two are hammer and tongs against each other, and looks like it's going to be on again.
Well, Gestetner needs to win this race to just get back up within, nipping distance of the Xerox. Xerox has got a lead in the series. Gestetner looks like the main challenger. They're coming up to Mark 1. On the way back down, they're nearing the halfway mark of this race. And indeed, as I speak, the Xerox is struggling to get up to that Mark 1, having to give the spinnaker a little bit of a flog so that she can make some time up. And there's the story of the Ericsson.
Well, here we have the spinnaker pole, which is the bowsprit on. It sticks out the front of the boat, which supports the spinnaker. and that's a light alloy tube which decided to give up the ghost, and without that spinnaker pole out there's no way they can set the spinnaker, so it's a sorry state of affairs for the boys on Ericsson.
And to Andrew Devola's eternal credit, he's kicking on, he's not giving in, he's racing on, he'll race with the broken nose, no problem, and he'll stay out there, good on him. Gestetner, are they making up any time, Rob? Well, let's deal with Tooheys Ross first, we'll deal with those front markers in a second.
Well, here we have Tooheys Ross. It's going to be very difficult for them to catch up in this race because there's not very many passing lanes in this course. It's very tight on the spinnaker legs, a few wind shifts upwind, and let's just look at Tooheys Ross sliding along here. Looks great.
Problem though, let's not watch too long. She's been driven down again between marks 2 and 1. She's been driven right down off the course, and the boys being forced once again to drop that spinnaker and come up under 2 sails, and I think they might just as well kiss Ella Bachet goodbye.
Yeah, well, that certainly is the case. You can see how much the speed drops off when they have to drop that spinnaker, when the crew leaves the wings, in contrast to Davey Cummings and the boys on Gestetner, fully extended, full power, nice and flat, probably travelling at 14 to 15 knots.
And as we approach the halfway mark in the 4th race of the Tooheys International Cup, the halfway mark coming up, very, very tight between the Xerox and Gestetner, and also very tight still between Tooheys Ross and Ella Bachet for 3rd and 4th. And on the way back up, you saw just then the Gestetner passing the Tooheys Ross on the way down, about a minute's difference now.
Ella Bachet just looks a little bit bogged in today. These conditions should suit her because they're a lighter crew. They've got a very streamlined hull, brightly painted, pink lips. What else would you ask for on an 18-foot skiff? And here's an incident where we've got Ella Bachet and Tooheys Ross. Ella Bachet has right of way, deciding to jibe out of there and do the spinnaker drop.
Nothing in it at all between 3rd and 4th. Between 1st and 2nd, Xerox got what looks to me like a stranglehold on 1st position in this race. Not a stranglehold. Look how close Gestetner is. There's 1 boat length in it. 1 boat length in it as they go up around Mark 1 for the 2nd time, just over halfway through the race. Nothing in it between these 2 championship skiffs.
I'd hate to pick a winner out of these 2, Bill. In these conditions, you know, very light and variable conditions. You can hear we have the situation of Gestetner getting a little bit of separation, and like this race is by far over.
Rob, the boats are 100 metres apart widthwise. The Gestetner's out ahead. You never know who gets what breeze now. They're far enough apart for one bloke to get a seam of breeze for the other not to, and I suppose that's where races are won and lost.
Well, here again, I criticise Phil Barnett. I think once you have a lead, you've got to cover, and he's let Gestetner get out on the right-hand side of the course. The breeze looks like it's going to kick in from the left, which is going to favour Xerox, but he's giving Gestetner chances which you shouldn't give your opposition.
OK, well, we'll pass that on to Phil a bit later on and see what he says. But in the meantime, it looks to me like they got that big slant. Just then we saw them really screwing up into Rose Bay, and look what's happened to them.
Well, they've picked that one up on the water, and I suppose I shouldn't criticise them sitting up here watching the race, but full credit to his crew. They've picked the wind there, and it has come in from the east, or the left-hand side of the course, and I can't believe this. They've really opened up a couple of 100 metres.
Rob, it looks like they went from being 1 boat length to being about 40 boat lengths ahead.
It's just the light southeasterly breeze on Sydney Harbour. You can get one little vein of breeze and it can make all the difference.
OK, a quick shot back there of Ella Bachet fighting with Tooheys Ross for 3rd position, and a great battle going on there. At the top mark for the last time, we are 3/4 of the way through this race. Xerox around the mark immediately does a jibe so they don't have to do one of those windward sets and have Rob Brown jumping all over them. So they're going to jibe first and do a leeward set, and there it is. It's so much easier when they do it that way, and Rob's not giving him a hard time.
Oh, full credit to the boys on Xerox. The breeze has come in from that left-hand side of your screen, and they had to do a jibe set there because that was the most favoured angle down to the next mark. And you just see the difference that that little wind shift made. They've put on probably a minute lead in as many minutes of sailing.
Yes, it's been a fantastic performance. A quick mention that these skiffs, if you're watching in Canberra, are coming your way in March for the festival, so watch out for all these boys. They'll be up there and we'll be putting on a show. Gestetner also has got Rob Brown in mind. They jibe too. They don't want to do a windward set, and off they go back down the track, but hell, they've got a heck of a lot of time to make up if they're going to look. In fact, you saw Xerox just marching away.
Yeah, they won't catch it from there, you know, unless there's some gear failure on board Xerox. They've got this race shot to bits. Tooheys Ross, he's hung in well in this race. The boat has slightly smaller sails. You can see that the crew are fully extended. In fact, we're on board there on the boom cam. You can see the crew working the main sheet, and the guy in the middle, Alistair Saunders, working the main sheet, and they're now going into attack.
Attacking, they figure they can make the top mark, they can lay the top mark, as they say. They've got far enough up the course so that they can get around it, and they go through a direction change, which is called a tack when you're on the breeze, sailing into the breeze. Nice smooth tack from the Touche Ross. Coming up to the top mark, I'm very keen to see where they are in relationship to Alabashe. We'll find that out in a minute. That's a bit of a mystery for us. This is not a mystery. Xerox on her way from Mark II to Mark I, and she has bolted.
Yeah, they'd have a good 40 to 50 second lead over Davy Cummings and Gestetner, and full credit to them. They're just passing that last mark, and they'll pick a nice easy jibe angle to the finish. And let's just watch Xerox as she goes through her paces.
Phil Barnett, the skipper, Adam South, the sheet hand, Greg Homan up front. That's the three-man crew on board the Xerox skiff. A superb exhibition today. Phil Barnett, of course, spent all his life on the harbour, knows it like the back of his hand.
Yeah, I'm sure Donnie Barnett, his father, would be watching this race and very pleased, because they built the boat basically in their garage, and to see the boat cross the line first in this series, which is, you know, it's one of the premier events for 18-foot sailors, and full credit to Phil and all the boys, and as we watch her go across the finishing line, well done.
Indeed, she crosses the line first, the Xerox first in this fourth race. She has now established a commanding lead in the series, and Phil Barnett, in his first season as a skipper of an 18-foot skiff, is right on the boil.
Davy Cummings and the boys and Gestetner sniffing victory today, but that wind shift avoided that happening.
And behind him we have a very creditable performance from Michael Bochner in Touche Ross, looking set for third position. Ella Bachet a bit out the back door in fourth position. Ericsson with no spinnaker looking fifth. Prudential, no start in the last two races, made it tough for her. And at the end of the second day of racing in the Tooheys International Cup, it's wide open.
So, Heat 4 going to Phil Barnett Xerox, followed by Gestetner, Touche Ross, Ella Bachet, and in fifth place, a battered Ericsson. After 4 heats of this 10-race series, Xerox has leapt to an 11-point lead from Gestetner. Then a tight battle for third, fourth and fifth, with series favourite Prudential trailing off a distant last. Join us tomorrow for Day 3 of the Tooheys International Cup 18-foot Summer Series.